Hello, and welcome to your training on partnering with families. We all know engagement is crucial to success, and we are excited you are tuning in to learn how to engage families even more than you do now. This training was made for just about anyone working with families, including the juvenile justice system, social workers, teachers, counselors, just to name a few. You're here because what we're about to talk about impacts you directly. More than that, what we're about to talk about requires you. This training delves into a topic that is central to our work, though it is hard work. We are glad you are investing in this important topic. Thank you for being ready and willing to do the hard work. When I mention working with families, I can almost hear the heavy sighs. I can feel a sense of dread and frustration creep into the air. Many of us know the statistics. 50% of families that schedule an appointment for services never show. How can we help families if we can't get them in the door? How do we help families when their children are already known in the system? And is there even any point to helping families by this time? These are all incredibly important questions to raise, and we're going to talk about them all. I look forward to discussing how we can remove the anticipated dread and instead find approaches to bring families in and work as a team. By the end of this training, you should be able to explain the importance of partnering with the family. You should be able to acknowledge common barriers to working with the family, and you should be able to understand and implement effective strategies in order to work with the family. For our purposes, family means anyone who is helping guide the youth in a supportive role through caregiving responsibilities. This may include biological parents, foster families, or even siblings, relatives, or other adult connections that support the youth. Now, it's almost a no-brainer when we start talking about the huge influence parents have on a child's life. If you've ever been a parent, or a child for that matter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Parents seem to influence every aspect of your life, from where you go to school, who you hang out with, extracurricular activities you participate in, to what you eat, how you dress. The list goes on and on. Research has a lot to say about this too, though. Findings suggest that parents influence college and career choices, sexual behavior, eating habits, and socialization to gender roles, just to name a few. One research study put it like this: the family is the primary learning, discovery, and socialization environment. This can be either positive or negative. The main takeaway here is that parental involvement is huge in an adolescent's life. If parental involvement is so impactful, it makes sense why we would want to incorporate parents into treatment and rehabilitation of kids, right? The treatment program for youth with problematic and illegal sexual behavior through Oklahoma University Health Sciences Center found that parental involvement significantly increased treatment response and recidivism. After this research was conducted, the program began requiring parental participation on a weekly basis, and the courts have been good at ensuring attendance. Prior to the research being conducted, families attended on a voluntary monthly basis for updates. While family involvement is good in treatment, it is also essential in probation to ensure youth success. There's even more reason, though, as to why we would want to include families in treatment. Research has shown that youths in residential facilities who have more positive family relationships during justice involvement are less likely to become depressed over time and show greater overall emotional well-being. In addition, there appears to be a positive relationship between weekly visitation by family members and maintaining good behavior and improved school performance. But the most important reason for why we should include families in treatment comes with a staggering statistic. Over 2/3 of kids who need services don't end up receiving them. And this is a statistic that has remained stable over the past 20 years. If we can get families involved, there's a greater chance that the youth will receive services they need. Research has proven that when families are involved, youth benefit by having someone to reinforce their treatment. Treatment is hard work. Having a partner to reinforce kids throughout the week is very much needed. Youth also benefit by experiencing a reduction in anxiety. They are provided with an advocate who can help them articulate their needs. And there's an increased chance of a smooth transition home. Family involvement doesn't just benefit the youth, though. It also benefits the family by giving the parents a better understanding of their child's experiences in the system, an understanding of the process and expectations of the juvenile justice system so they can make more informed decisions about their child. And it leaves them feeling valued for the important information that they can share about their child. Lastly, family involvement even benefits the juvenile justice system. The system gains important and reliable knowledge and insights about a youth from family members that otherwise might not be available or known to the juvenile justice system staff. It establishes a working partnership with families, which increases the likelihood that families and youth will follow through with service plans. And it builds a sense of shared responsibility for youth and improves agency culture and staff morale. So if research indicates that working with families is best practice, and there are all these known benefits, then why can't we just jump in now and get to work? As always, it's not that simple. You all know the multiple barriers to success that seem to creep in and push away from better partnerships. And that's what we'll discuss now. Now here's the part of this training that can start to feel a little uncomfortable. But hopefully that discomfort will turn into a learning opportunity for us. Why is this part uncomfortable? Well, unfortunately, we can be one of the barriers to helping families. In fact, research shows that we are actually the biggest barrier to partnering with families. Let me say that again. In many cases, we ourselves are the barrier. It doesn't feel good to say, but it is true. What do I mean by this? Well, research has shown that the biggest reason families are not involved in their child's case is because the family itself is usually seen as the source of the problem. Put another way, we have a tendency to blame parents for their child being in the juvenile justice system in the first place. Couple this with understanding that parents are trying their best to protect their kids within the system. If we are blaming them and they feel we are hurting their children, it's a recipe that partnership won't occur. We have to change the ingredients. It's all about trust. Both sides must come to a common understanding and goals to support youth. A 2011 study put it this way: families and juvenile justice system stakeholders both acknowledge that the juvenile justice system often blames parents for their children's behavior, and this lack of trust makes it difficult to engage families. Unfortunately, the research is also pretty clear on another fact. Workers who aren't likely to take the perspective of the family don't partner with them. It impairs the ability to truly partner with the family. Now, at this point, you might find yourself saying something like, "What? This isn't me. I definitely do not view the family as a problem, and I sure do not treat them like they are. This training is pointless." Those reactions and feelings are okay, truly, but we can't stop with these feelings and reactions. Please continue on with me as we take a deeper look at our own reactions. I ask that you would push through these uncomfortable feelings and thoughts and really begin to examine your initial reactions when you hear of or meet with a family. On some level, our initial reactions of a family might make logical sense to us. This is simply your brain trying to use something called top-down processing in order to make sense of what you're experiencing. In top-down processing, our brains attempt to fill in missing information based on previous experience. Like in this example, we have one letter that is not completed, but I'm sure you had no problem reading these two words. What's interesting is that depending on the contextual cues, your brain registered this letter as either an H or an A. Top-down processing is a natural occurrence for humans. It's also one of the underlying drivers of implicit bias. Implicit biases are sometimes referred to as stereotypes. These are our unconscious snap judgments that we make on people based on what they're wearing, what they look like, or how they're behaving. Just like top-down processing, implicit biases are a natural part of our brains attempting to make sense of the world. We fill in missing information with what we already know. Unfortunately, these unconscious assessments of people can get us in trouble. Now it's your turn. I want you to take a moment to recall the last time you met with a family. Try to put yourself back in that situation. Can you recall your initial reactions of the members? In what ways can you see that you might have held some implicit bias? What were some of your initial thoughts, feelings, and even behaviors? And how did these affect the work that you did? The point of this discussion is an attempt to understand why we have become the biggest barrier to working with families. Our experiences have led us to make shortcuts to get our work done sooner. However, these shortcuts also lead to downsides when we assume and jump to conclusions instead of truly starting fresh and working to get to know the family. We must slow down and make these initial connections. If we can overcome our initial assessments of the family, there's a greater chance that we'll be able to help. We also have to take a moment to expel a few more common myths. First, a lot of us might assume that parents don't want to be a part of their child's treatment. But a survey of over 1,000 families demonstrated that 91% believe the system should involve families more in the court process, and 86% expressed a desire to be a part of their child's treatment. You might also start to feel some confusion at this point. After all, we just talked earlier about how parents play such a huge role in a child's life. If a kid ends up in the juvenile system, it must be because the family system was negative, right? Well, not necessarily. Most of us will readily admit that teenagers have a mind of their own, and even the most well-intentioned parents sometimes can't thwart their teenagers' actions. How many times as a youth did you go against your parents' wishes? Also, many parents are torn between responsibilities of work, providing for the family, or simply doing the best they can with what they know. It is very rare for a parent not to care about what their kids do, or to directly and purposefully encourage negative behavior. Understanding their perspective and circumstances is important to unlocking the doors to better partnership. Sometimes, though, the family may be seen to be doing things that are not helpful and could lead youth to have more negative behaviors. To get families to engage, we can't start with telling them why they are the problem or what things they need to do to correct it. They likely know they aren't perfect already, and they likely have ideas of things they need to be doing better. These are the moments that it is crucial to partner. If we can get families to be a part of the conversation, there's a better chance we can involve the whole family in the action plan. It would be highly amiss, though, if we didn't discuss some of the very tangible barriers to assisting families that we know exist. Barriers like a lack of knowledge about how the court process works, lack of economic funds, and little social support. Basics of transportation and so many other elements of life and circumstance. Simply asking families about real and perceived barriers is a method to problem solve and work together. Many of these things may have solutions, while others may be difficult to overcome. The important thing is to be open about the real issues the families have and show support and caring around ways in which you can work together despite the barriers that exist. In moving forward, we are going to talk more about concrete ways we can use strategies to better partner with families. It is my hope that these things will work within your style of interaction. However, communication between you and families is something we can all get better at. True partnership is hard work, but if we start right, it allows us to connect with families in much deeper ways. Let me start by saying that one size doesn't fit all. Currently, there is not one main strategy to work with families, not one that may work for you or for them. However, while there may not be one exact method, there are some guiding principles that, if followed, can assist you in your own personal approach. A very promising model has been developed and used by Mary McKay. We are going to take a dive and see what the model includes to help us in our efforts. McKay identified 2 levels to family engagement. The first level is called the talking point. These are brief strategies that anyone can use, and they are designed to get parents in the door. This talking point includes clarifying the need for care, being respectful, and asking what the parents think. What do I mean by clarifying the need for care? McKay suggests that families are tired of hearing what everyone else thinks their child needs. The school has an opinion, the doctor, the church, the social worker. Families need to be asked, "What do you think?" and then actually heard. McKay demonstrated that when you begin to ask parents what they think, you will get 2 responses. The parents will have a lot to say about what they think, and there is generally some confusion in regards to the process of the system. It's important to begin to sort out this confusion. You may have to think about phrasing the question differently depending on where they are in the process. For instance, you may need to word things like, "Do you understand the next steps in the court case?" Or you might ask things like, "At the end of this, what do you want to have seen happen? What would you like your son to have learned? What do you think may help him get there?" Respect is a direct response to the barrier of us viewing the family as the problem, as we discussed earlier. But how do we move past viewing the family as the problem and towards demonstrating respect and dignity instead? Respect starts with empathy. Empathy is defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. You can think of empathy as walking a mile in their shoes. Can you put yourself in the family situation? Keep in mind, by the time these families reach the justice system, they are in a state of crisis. While you may never have had a family member involved in the juvenile justice system, you have experienced some of the same emotions that these families are experiencing. Emotions like fear at the prospect of what is happening to their child, helplessness because they don't understand the system and feel unable to protect their child, anxiety over the lack of knowledge about what to expect from the juvenile justice system, and even relief, especially if their child has a behavioral health disorder and they have been unable to care for them. Fear, helplessness, anxiety. When is a time that you have experienced these emotions? Remember the strong effect these emotions had. Delve into these emotions as you develop empathy and respect for the families that we work with. You may ask parents directly, "How are you handling all of this?" You might want to say something like, "I know many parents experience a range of emotions, and they may fluctuate over the day and change over the course of the court process. Have you experienced any of these changes?" Next, McKay implemented respect within her studies by expressing a sense of admiration for the parent. This was done by acknowledging the fact that parents took the time to meet with you, the worker. This goes a long way. She found that the more you can demonstrate an admiration for the parents, the better the partnership will become. Even if you have to hunt for the positives, there are always small things you can say that will show respect and make the parents feel valued. What are some practical ways you might demonstrate respect and admiration? For instance, you may say, "I know you have a lot going on, and I truly appreciate the efforts you made to get here today. I know it wasn't easy." Or you may say something like, "It takes a lot of courage to point out when your child is struggling and you need help. Thanks for letting me help you." Or you may even say something like, "You have done such a wonderful job raising your son. He has demonstrated so much respect today. You should be proud of that." Many kids make poor decisions. That doesn't mean they aren't a good kid. I want you to remember that. Lastly, ask the parents what they thought about the services they received or what they think about the services their child is receiving. This opens the door for the parent to begin feeling heard. This can be the basis for trust. Try to let the family know that honesty is always best, even if they have doubts. It's important for us as the worker to know these doubts. McKay's second level of family engagement was developed with the intent of getting families to keep coming back. This is her Lovers for Retention plan, and it includes clarifying the helping process, family collaboration, preparing for universal disappointment, and ask. McKay found that for many families, there was confusion in what the helping process looks like. In her research, she found that families had decided if they would return for services after only 5 minutes of the initial contact. The first 5 minutes. While families may be, quote, forced to interact with us as OJ or court-involved staff, we can make these interactions more positive and meaningful. It's important in this time to give a brief, respectful overview of what the family can expect. Keep in mind, some families may be rude or even hateful in their first interaction with the system. Don't let this shake you from following the path of caring and respect. Keeping key phrases in your pocket are always helpful when families throw you curveballs. Saying something like, "If it's okay, I realize you are upset and may need to take a moment before we continue." Or even saying something like, "I see you angry. I'd like for you to help me understand what has happened that has you feeling this way." This doesn't give permission for families to be disrespectful, but it may curb their dialogue enough for you to move beyond the initial interaction. As you continue to build momentum, clarify the steps you can take to support the family in their goals. The next element can assist you in this communication and partnership. Me versus we. McKay makes the point that the amount of times the word I is used instead of the word we when engaging families can be astounding. This really says something about our view of collaboration with the family. McKay suggests building a foundation for working together by simply implementing the word we more often. After all, it takes a team to help youth thrive and grow after finding themselves in trouble. Next, we know we cannot solve everything in a single appointment or interaction. So it is important we think about and predict some of the things a family may need that we can either connect them to or at least can talk about and consider how we could eventually target longer-term goals. McKay talks about this as preparing for universal disappointment. Oftentimes, families imagine that some of their physical needs might be met within the first contact. It's important to have empathy for the family and have empathy for some of the very tangible struggles they may be facing. McKay suggests having resources available for places where families can go to get more help, and even having resources for things like stress or anger management. Again, having some core statements rehearsed can be helpful. You might want to say something like, "I know this is hard, but can you hang in there with me while we get you connected to other services?" Lastly, take the time to hear from the family by asking them how this was for them. Attempt to truly listen and understand that some might not wish to participate. It is never a bad thing to check in with families even more than once at the start and end of an appointment. Statements like, "I really would like your feedback on how we can best work together. What went well today and what is something I can do different next time to help you?" Listening and reflecting and showing authentic caring for their response will be moving. However, it is more important to remember and see where you may adjust. Even make the comment like, "Last week you said you'd prefer if I called you on a Tuesday. I wanted to check in and see if this worked better for you." For a quick recap, today we talked about the benefits of including parents in treatment, with the benefits extending to youth, the family, and the justice system. We then talked about barriers to working with families, with the biggest barrier being that we view families as the problem, followed by a lack of knowledge, economic funds, and social support. We then discussed McKay's model for working with families, which included two different levels. The first level, which was the talking point, included clarifying the need for care, being respectful, and asking what the parents think. The second level, levels for retention, included clarifying the helping process, family collaboration, preparing for universal disappointment, and asking. The work we do with families is crucial. You are crucial. Thank you once again for doing the hard work.